Hey folks, David Stewart here. I just wanted to share a particular bit of nostalgia. Not just this game, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, though I have nostalgia for this particular game, but the time when we had Gamecube and PlayStation 2 and even Xbox, the original Xbox, and before. During that time, you could buy a game and you could open up the box and you could take out the game and you could put it in your GameCube and you could turn it on. And then the game would come on your TV and you'd be playing the game. You wouldn't have to connect your console to the internet. You wouldn't have to download a big patch file. You wouldn't have to keep your game files up to date. The game file wouldn't randomly update when you turn on your console. And you could run the game. I could put this in my GameCube right now and play it without having to do anything besides attach my GameCube to a TV, which is actually attached to my TV right now. I have a lot of nostalgia for this time period because there's a certain wonderful approach, a certain simplicity to just that arrangement, being able to put a game into a game system and just play the game and enjoy it. It's something that we've kind of lost. I have a lot of fond memories of sitting on the couch and playing this game and other games like it, playing them on the TV, sitting in an easy chair somewhere, kind of in the dark on a little, maybe a CRT TV, because we didn't all have flat screens and stuff. I actually played on like a projection, big screen TV. Things looked really cool on that, and I really enjoyed that. There was something so relaxing. The internet wasn't this all-consuming thing that demanded a lot of our time and attention, and it wasn't also a big source of entertainment either. The internet, there were web pages. YouTube wasn't really a thing back then. You could look stuff up, but you guys remember these things? Like the official guide from Nintendo Power. I don't think Nintendo Power is a thing anymore. But you could get the guide, and maybe if you had trouble, you could look up the guide, and it's like, I could get some bat droppings or whatever, and it had maps of the different locations and how to play the game. Because you didn't find all this stuff. GameFAQs was still a pretty new thing. All that nostalgia there is really in that there was a putting out of the outside world. The outside world wasn't coming into your space where you're gaming, and it was just distraction-free, joyful gaming where you're totally involved with the game. The entire game came on a disc. You didn't have to get DLC map packs in order to play. You could just put the game in and play. That was also amazing as well. And as we've added to the gaming experience, with every addition to that experience has come a significant drawback. So I remember actually liking DLC when DLC was first becoming a thing. And the main games I remember were Oblivion, although people will laugh at the Horse Armor DLC. Knights of the Nine was actually pretty cool. But I remember a lot from Dragon Age Origins, that was when it was like too much DLC. It's like there's like 20 DLCs and they're all garbage. And at that point I started to realize that as excited as I was for DLC, that it wasn't something that you really wanted, because at some point, like if you have your Dragon Age Origins disc somewhere, which I don't think I even have a disc, I think it's a Steam only game at this point, you're not going to have the full game experience. And when you put in the disc, it won't run unless you update it. And when you update it, it might break or, all kinds of things. So when games had to ship in a disc, they had to ship fully functional. I remember Dragon Age Origins shipped with this awful memory leak bug where it would just start eating up more and more and more of your RAM as you played. And you don't really get that with these old console games. So I have a lot of nostalgia for, the PlayStation 2 and the GameCube in particular, because I felt like those were the last consoles where you could sit down cross-legged on your carpet, turn on your TV, and just play a game for as long as you wanted to, and there was nothing to interrupt you or bother you. You maybe had a cell phone where like your friend would call to come over, and he'd bring his Game Boy Advance, and then you could play the Game Boy Advances on your Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. Felt like there was so much innovation in the game industry back in the early 2000s and late 90s, but mostly the early 2000s. With like GameCube was so it was just so innovative with being able to connect your Game Boy to it. What a cool idea. And it never really worked out in practice, but we loved the idea. And now we essentially circumvented that by having everybody, rather than we're all going to go over to one dude's house and we're going to play Final Fantasy on our Game Boys with each other, it just became like, well, we're all going to log onto the game separately in our own offices or our own living rooms and talk to each other over the internet. It's just not quite the same. It was the last gasp of classic console gaming. And so anyway, I wanted to share that nostalgia. Not just this, I heard Crystal Chronicles is actually coming out on the Nintendo Switch at some point, and it's a great game. It's a game I do have a lot of nostalgia specifically for the Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles game, but I'm telling you, the experience will not be the same. It's impossible for it to be the same as putting that Crystal Chronicles disc in your GameCube and you and your friends hooking up your Game Boy Advances or Game Boy Advance SPs, depending on which version you had. I had the original. Yeah, the original one. Actually, I don't think I did. I had the clear one. I have the clear one still. Hooking that up and trying to find the light so you can actually see the screen and playing together in that capacity and not having any kind of feeling like there was time impending upon you. And during this period of time, I was in college. At least back in the early 2000s, you had this interesting downtime all the time where classes were spaced out in weird ways. So you and your friends might have like a 5-hour break in the afternoon. And we'd go over to somebody's apartment, chill out on the couch, crack open a beer or a soda or something, and play a game, play some games with each other, or just chill out while someone else played a game. Right? It's like, I've been playing this game. You want to look at it, and maybe you'll buy it. And it's like, man, I think I like this new Final Fantasy game. I'll probably go get it. There was so much of that kind of feeling there. I can't imagine like a modern undergrad ever has that feeling of just freedom as far as no obligations to look at their phone or to show up or talk to someone. That's like, let's just go back to the dorm room and play some Xbox or something. Let's just go do something else. I can't see that feeling in the modern world. So a lot of my nostalgia from that comes from the freedom from feelings of obligation, the freedom of your mind to not be having to focus on so many different distractions all the time. And as I think about this nostalgia and I wonder, like, is this going to be good on the Nintendo Switch? I'm like, I could just go play it right now on my GameCube. I have my upscaler. I've got all that kind of stuff hooked up. I'll go play it on my GameCube, and I'll probably really enjoy playing it. I don't have to wait for the Switch port. How do you recapture that? I think that's why a lot of people like the old consoles, is because of the feelings of just joy of plugging in a game and playing. Turning on your PlayStation 1 and just playing Final Fantasy 9 for like 4 hours. And not thinking about anything else. Like not thinking about homework, not thinking about girlfriend, not thinking about Facebook stuff. No phone to annoy you when somebody has like replied to your tweet. I got to think about how to get back there. And the main way to get back there is to just control those distractions. So that's something that I'm thinking about. If you have suggestions to that effect, link them down below. But the main thing I also want to reiterate, besides the joy of playing this, is the fact that in 20 years, in 30 years, I can still play this game, but I probably won't be able to play the Switch version, right? I will be able to put this game into my GameCube and play it. But I probably will not be able to play the Switch version because it will require some sort of online access. The servers will be down, So if I'm playing this with my grandkids, I could play this with my grandkids, but it probably won't be on the current generation consoles. It'll be on these older original ones. Or you'll be emulating it through some other roundabout way with a PC in the future. But either way, you won't be able to, when you buy these digital versions, at some point in time, you may lose access to them as the online, the server gets turned off, the company goes out of business. Who knows? There's something very wonderful about the fact that you had physical copies that contained the entire game, no DLC, nothing additional. This was the whole thing. You popped it in, you were in for the whole experience. You had everything that you needed right here. That was pretty special, and that is something that I actually actively do miss. So, thanks so much for watching and listening to this little, this little nostalgic thought. What are some of your favorite games from this era? And when do you remember games changing over, starting to cross over the threshold and become more like the modern paradigm where you got to be online all the time, it's all about multiplayer, blah, 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 and stopped being about this sort of core, fun, almost introverted experience, distraction-free experience? When do you think that happened? And what are some of your favorite GameCube games? let me know those down below. Maybe I've got some, and I could do some content on them, because I love the older games, and I have a lot of fun with them. So thanks so much. Of course, you can get my books wherever books are sold these days, Amazon, whatever. So check those out, and I'll see you guys next time.